Good morning, Singapore. I can't believe it. It's been 90 days since I've been here, completed my 14 days quarantine. And I have to say, life in a small city alone wasn't exactly smooth sailing. So in today's video, I'm gonna share with you for the past 90 days what I've been up to, catch up with you a little bit, as well as share with you a little glimpse of what's pandemic life in Singapore. And finally, what does it mean for travel when the country is slowly opening up its borders? My name is Bernard with Explore As We Go. During March 2020, we unknowingly made Bali our temporal home, sheltering ourselves from the pandemic as COVID abruptly stopped the world from traveling. We made the most out of our year and a half in this beautiful island, tasting local cuisine, discovering our spiritual self, climbing mountains, boating with dolphins, and most importantly, making new friends. Fast forward to July 2021, we took yet another hiatus as we reach another milestone in this pandemic to get ourselves vaccinated back home in our respective countries. Me to Singapore and Wedee back to the United States of America. Life wasn't easy apart, but we took this opportunity to hit the reset button to catch up with friends and family. When I arrived safely in Singapore, I went into a 14 days mandatory quarantine in a small room within a hotel. After multiple COVID tests later, I was finally able to rejoin with my family and friends, or so I thought. The country was really focused in reaching a COVID-0 case approach. Laws are constantly changing about social settings and quarantine. As I slowly acclimatized back home, I also struggled to keep up. This is my COVID diaries living in Singapore with the pandemic. So, what has been going on for the past 90 days? Let's start from the very beginning. So what happened was when I finished my quarantine, I was super excited to go into civilization because I wanted to try all the hawker food, meet up with friends and family, and like tons of stuff on my to-do list. But because of COVID and the government's zero COVID cases approach to the pandemic, they implemented more strict laws and kind of quasi-lockdown, which they call heightened alert second phase or something. They basically restricted dining in, no gym activities, no, like closed indoor activities and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff in the city were basically still kind of in a lockdown mode, and I couldn't really do much. At the same time, when I came out from my quarantine, I was getting my Pfizer vaccine jab, which is my first shot. And I didn't really want to do much because I want to make sure that my body gets inoculated with the vaccine before I go out and do any social activities. So for the first 3 to 4 weeks, I basically just stayed in because I couldn't dine in anyway outside. And I was waiting for my vaccine to get my second dose. And I just want to keep my friends and family safe. So my first 4 weeks was kind of boring to begin with.
With the calibrated reopening, dining in will be allowed from Monday, but only for groups of 2 people.
Groups of 5 can dine out from the current 2.
Been reduced to 2 for the next 3 weeks. Dine-ins will be banned yet again under the Phase 2 heightened alert. Now, groups of up to 5 can now eat at restaurants if they're fully vaccinated.
Group size parameter will come down from 5 to 2, and that will have implications for house visits as well as dining.
Up to 5 fully vaccinated people from the same household can dine in together at F&B outlets.
One of the biggest game-changing law was unless you're fully vaccinated, you could be dining in for groups of 2 to up to 5. So that wasn't very great for me because I was still waiting to get my vaccine in. And that took about 6 to 8 weeks in total. So for the first 8 weeks, I pretty much just stayed in and worked on my videos, trying to catch up with Wedee as well, and helping out stuff with family at home, and not really doing much. So my life really began right after 8 weeks in Singapore. The pandemic in Singapore felt like a prolonged period of limbo. Compounded with constant volatile changes on COVID laws, provided more frustration than assurance. It was a struggle to keep up with normalcy when the country continues to limit social activities on many settings, despite having one of the highest vaccination rates in the world. I just recently heard that the government just clamped down on unvaccinated people. So if you're not vaccinated, it basically means that you cannot enter malls, you cannot dine in. And dining in is a big part of Singapore food culture because there's really nothing much to do in this small little island apart from eating, and eating more good food.
In my time there, it felt like there was no light to the end of the tunnel. But at the same time, it was a funny paradox to start seeing a relaxation in travel restrictions when travel bubbles or vaccinated travel lanes started opening up. Is this really the new normal Singapore is fighting for?
And I can feel like me and my friends, we're kind of like pent up and frustrated because at the same time the country is so small, you can't really travel. And what I've been doing is just to escape a little bit because, you know, we are a travel hacking YouTube channel and all we do is about traveling. And then suddenly I got into a standstill of like not being able to travel. The only escape I could do was doing staycations in Singapore. It's nice to like break from the monotony a little bit. So let's take a quick tour of this lofted premium apartment. So I did 2 staycations so far. The first one is the Heritage Collection on Sia Street, which is a very nice apartment loft. And then my second one was the Heritage Collection in Chinatown. And also stay tuned because we're also doing another staycation for my mom's 61st birthday at the St. Regis Singapore. Yeah, like my final staycation before we disembark, and I'm gonna meet Wedee in some part around the other side of the world. So one biggest distraction I gave myself was focusing on my body and my fitness. I didn't really join the gym, but in Singapore there is this thing called the SG Active Fitness Gym. So what's really cool about these gyms is they have like close to 20 of them around Singapore, and if not, they're comparable to some of the nicer gyms around. I'm kind of happy with the results so far with what I've been doing to, you know, keep my body healthy and my mind healthy as well. So one of the many COVID laws in Singapore is this thing called contact tracing. You basically have to download this app called Trace Together. It will have your vaccination status in there. It will also show where you're going. So before you enter any hawker center or store, supermarket, or even shopping malls, you basically have to scan the Trace Together app and it will track you wherever you go. So if you're potentially exposed to COVID, it means that the government will contact you and they will actually send you to a quarantine center to prevent further spreading of COVID. So on top of this Trace Together app, people who are not so IT savvy or has an actual phone, the government actually issued the people a thing called token. So wherever you enter a mall or supermarket or hawker center, you basically have to scan it and it makes a loud beeping sound. So in a way, it can trace you to see where you go, and if someone is potentially exposed to COVID, can be traced and be notified. So as the country is moving towards an endemic right now, a lot of the laws that were implemented when I was here like, 3 months ago, are slowly changing as well. So in the past, they would actually send you to an isolation quarantine center. But now, if you're tested positive for COVID, the government basically tells you to stay at home and self-isolate. So, what does this mean for travels into Singapore during the pandemic? For all we know, Singapore has one of the highest vaccination rates in the world, close to almost 90% at the time of filming. At the same time, the government is taking an endemic approach, which means quarantines are being reduced from 14 days to only 10 nights mandatory. and a lot of the rules are being relaxed right now. But at the same time, social rules are also quite tight, so it's kind of like a catch-22 situation. But in terms of international travel, it's definitely more of a relaxed approach because in the beginning we saw in our previous video, we talked about the vaccinated travel lanes, which means basically travel bubbles between specific countries with low COVID cases. The first two countries we've seen were Germany and Brunei. And to date, they added more countries into these vaccinated travel lanes. So far, we've heard that South Korea is opening up to Singapore, the United States, as well as a few more other countries. And I won't be surprised to see this list growing and more countries will be able to come into Singapore without the requirement of quarantine if you're being vaccinated. My opinion for Singapore is that it's gonna be not so fast. Like, it's gonna be definitely in waves and pacing where countries will be added into the list for opening up without quarantine, but it's not gonna be immediately open borders. So in a way, I would give a good 6 to 8 months or maybe even a year to see travel going back into how it used to be pre-COVID. As for Explore As We Go, you know, like we are a travel channel, we're a travel hacking channel as well. We teach people how to make the most out of miles and points to travel luxury or travel longer. As you know, this pandemic has taken a toll on all of us, including the travel industry and including our travel video content. But I can still see ourselves traveling moving forward from here because in terms of opening up borders, Europe is basically open right now. So is the United States as well as South America. But in terms of the pandemic, I feel like we have to just move on once we're vaccinated and once we see the world getting more people vaccinated. Travel will slowly resume. But for Asia, which is our favorite playground, I don't see that happening that soon. It could probably be late next year. And if you have any comments or opinion or feedback, just leave it down below. Let us know because we love feedback and we always try to get our content useful and helpful for you so that it makes sense for you to watch our stuff. I think we can still keep going with our channel, and I hope that you enjoy whatever we've produced so far. So my conclusion is, in terms of travel, things are going to look optimistic and the prospects of Explore As We Go is going towards the other side of the continent, which is towards Europe or the United States or the North America, and we will continue to keep traveling and bringing you more fresh content. So make sure to subscribe, hit the like button because it really helps us out, and stay tuned for my next video, which is showing you how much you can spend with $50 in Singapore.